How are you, Pat? Woo.
Bye.
All right, that's cool. Sounded foxy. All right. Kids go do their thing. Everyone have a Bible? Almost. Not plenty of them. They're all over the place. Grab one. Take one. Open it up to 1 Peter chapter 1. If you don't have a Bible and you want one, take the one that's on the chair and put your name in it and take it home with you. All right? A couple things before we jump into the Bible. Just want to let you know that on Sunday nights, and I know some of you come, I'm just going to kind of keep hammering this thing, keep hammering it every week, because I think I have more fun on Sunday night than any other time, you know. It is a good time. We get to argue lovingly. It's good times. But anyway, Sunday night at 6:30, what we do is we get together and you can talk about whatever we talk about here. So take some notes and yeah, thank you. And come on Sunday night at 6:30, and we just do a little round table. It's actually like a rectangle table. It's not round, so we do a little rectangle table. So please come. If you have any questions or concerns or perspectives on anything you learn here, or anything you question, it's fine. I'm open to being wrong. You know, I hope I'm not, but you know, I'm a flawed man too. So bring your questions, concerns, perspectives, ideas, whatever on Sunday nights. Then also, I know that most people would think it's crazy to go to church more than once a week. I know that. However, I think that it's wise to spend a lot of time in the Bible. Am I alone here? I don't think so. I think it's a good idea, right? So one of the guys here at the church, known as Big Mike, and you'll know why when you see him, Big Mike has offered to have a Bible study on Monday nights. And just being quite honest with you, it's been sporadic. Like a couple people come, maybe no one comes, 2-3 people, then no one. He doesn't live right around the corner, so he doesn't want to drive out here. There's nobody here, you know. So just want to let you know, Monday nights at 6:30, there's basically three Monday night Bible studies a month. The first Monday night of the month, we do a dinner where everyone comes. We have a great time. That's awesome. But the other Monday nights, yeah, amen. I celebrate. I wore these pants again today. Yeah, just to.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, just to you know, rub it in more. I washed them though.
I
I
bet.
think. Well, if I did, I did. You know what I'm
Right.
saying, right?
No,
Yeah.
I feel you there.
Hopefully they're.
I don't know
they're
how I
good.
get clean.
So anyway, we have a Bible study on every Monday night, except the first Monday night of the month. So anyway, come to that. It's good, and he's deep. He's deep. He teaches a lot of good stuff. So please try to come and learn. And if you're not wringing as much out of your Christian walk that you probably could, it's probably because you just don't know enough about Jesus. You're not close enough to him. You don't know enough about him, and so that's where you learn. When you're digging deep into his word and you're learning, you're letting him speak to you and teach you. So please consider coming on Monday nights and learning. I also want to let you know there's a group, our youth group. Yes, sir.
Is it for men and women?
Anybody, yeah. The youth group, there's a group from the youth group that are going to this event this coming weekend called Acquire the Fire. And it's about 15, 16 people going. And there's, there's going to be praise and worship music and some pretty famous pastors, preachers, teachers. They're going to be teaching these kids and everything. But I just want to make you aware of it, that they're going. And if you would just keep them in your prayers, you know, that they're going to Tampa, they're staying overnight. Pray for them, for their safety. Pray that they would learn. Pray that God would use this weekend to stimulate their relationship with him. Please keep them in prayer. Now also, I want to take a moment. We have this guy, Daryl. I don't know, some of you guys know Daryl. He's gone to some of our Tuesday night gatherings with the men. He lives in Georgia, and then he lives down here part-time in Tavares. He is, I don't know if I screwed this up last night or not, but he is the, I don't know if he's the president or the leader, I don't know how they label him, okay, but he's the leader / president of the Southern Baptist Convention's mission board. They go around, and it's for the state of Georgia. They go around the world and they help people. They spread the gospel and serve and whatever. So He went yesterday with a whole team to Japan to spread the gospel. And he asked, he Facebooked me and asked that we would pray for him and his team. So I want to take a few moments before we get into our lesson this morning. And if you would, join me and let's pray for Daryl and his team as they go over to Japan. Is that cool? You guys in? All right, let's do that. Father, we thank you for listening. We thank you, like Kyle said, that because of what Jesus, your son, has done, we can come before you, and the veil has been torn. There's nothing that separates us from you, except ourselves sometimes. But this morning we come to you on the privilege that your son gives us. So just come before you and speak to you. Lord, you know Daryl, you know all the folks that have teamed up with him to go to Japan and spread the gospel in a place that is not gospel friendly. You've sent them to a place where there is hurt and pain and suffering, and they're going to come with not only a message of hope, but with hands of hope. Lord, we ask as Daryl's family that you would protect his team and him as they go over, that you would use them to build your kingdom. Let their ministry be effective. Let what they do there be effective in the building of your kingdom. Let it bring much profit. Use them to bring this message of hope, this gift of eternal life that you offer those folks in Japan. You offer them the gift of eternal life through your Son, Jesus Christ. And that is the message that Daryl and his team are bringing there. So please, Lord, let souls be saved. Let the seed of the Word of God that they bring fall into fertile soil in Japan. Bring souls to you. That is your desire, that all are saved, that not a single would perish. And there's precious people there that need to hear about your Son. So use Daryl and his team for that. Lord, I also ask that you would be here with us this morning, that your Spirit would help to teach us, guide me, help me to say the right things in the right way, so that your message would come through loud and clear. Help us to connect with you this morning and change us. That's what this whole message series is about. To take that which was and turn it into that which you desire it to be. We're flawed people in need of a Savior. We're in need of a God to help us, to mold us, to change us. We're not the way we're supposed to be. A lot of us can thank you so much that we're not the person we used to be, but we're not yet the person we're supposed to be. So Lord, I pray that you use today to help accomplish that. Change us. Our verse for this series, Lord, as you know, has been, do not copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but to let God transform. So all of us here in this room right now, I hope that you can join me saying this every night. Lord, we want to let you change us. We offer you ourselves. You would change us as a person. Come and be your word in Jesus' name. All right. Well, thank you for coming out this morning. Last night we had a great night. I keep saying this. I don't know if this is going to keep happening every week, but I had a great time last night, man. It was just awesome. And, you guys come to church. Well, I'm still coming to church, I'm just doing a little bit differently than most of you because I'm here and you're there, but I love the church. I love coming. I was reading 2 Thessalonians this week, and I read right there at the beginning of the letter something that Paul said, and it really, I was talking to Eric earlier, so it's probably like when I'm going to say this to you, you're probably going to go, that doesn't sound like what you said. It's very, very different, but I was reading this 2 Thessalonians, and Paul, he said, he said, God, I always thank you for these people, that are in that church, because their faith was flourishing and their love for each other was growing. And so he's like bragging to other churches about it too. And I was reading that, I was like, man, that's so, and so I was very, very thankful for that. Of course, I'm easy. I want to see even greater things. I want to see more flourishing faith. I want to see more people loving him and loving each other. So I have this thing that's going on all the time. Pray for me. It's kind of an obsession. But I was excited about that. And last night was just a wonderful night. And but I told them last night, and I'm telling you this morning, I don't want this morning to be the same as last night. It should be different. God's very creative. You look outside, you see the oak trees, you see the people. Did you ever go to New York City and see the people? Just sit and watch. Like there's freaking millions of them. And everyone has two eyes and a nose and two ears, but none of them look the same. It's kind of crazy, right? The variety, yet, we all look the same. Like I look like you. You got two arms, right? I got two arms. But you have long hair and I have no hair. Like we look the same, right? Like someone from Mars would come down and go, oh, they're humans. But we look nothing alike. It's crazy, right? But it's amazing variety that God has displayed. His people, his name, all of it. So it should be like that in our services too. Every time we gather, it should be a little bit different. It was kind of neat because I was reflecting on that and I was thinking about it. One of the things I love about this church is that every time I come, it's a unique experience. In two different ways. Like my experience is different than Evan's. His experience here is going to be different than mine today. So it's unique in that way, right? But also, it's unique personally. Like every time I come, it's something different. And so I rejoice in that. And it's awesome. And this morning, you guys put the same songs as last night. But yet, a whole different thing. You know what I mean? Just a whole different thing. So I hope that you enjoy those same blessings that I do every time I come. Last week we spoke about something that was I'm passionate about, and that is standing up for Jesus. Being proud to be a Christian and saying, you know what, my way is the way. And being cool with that. No, people say you're arrogant and judgmental, and how could you think that? You're closed-minded. Yes, I am. I'm extremely closed-minded. Jesus Christ is the only way. That's it. Christianity is the only real faith. And I'm not ashamed of that. It's cool. And Peter was kind of ashamed of it for a while. And I was like, who are you? I don't know that guy. You one of his? No. And then later on, he writes this letter here, 1 Peter, right? It's named after him. He puts his name there in writing. He says, this letter is from Peter. He says, an apostle of Jesus Christ. But basically what he's saying is, I'm Peter. Email blast to everybody. I'm Peter. I'm a Christian. Right? And we should be that way. Don't be ashamed of who you are and what you believe, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So he goes around, he talks about it. He's telling everybody through this letter. All these cities, all these people, all over Turkey, he's writing this email out, right? Basically. Sending out a letter to everyone saying a lot of things. But before he says anything, he's like, I'm a Christian. I know I could die for this, but I'm in. The guy goes all in, right? We need to be like that. We need to be like that. So anyway, we studied last week, and we're talking about that it's kind of tough sometimes, that the culture doesn't want you to do that, because they could shun you. They can unfriend you from Facebook if you boldly say, I'm a Christian and my way's the right way, I believe the Bible's true. We had that email, that Facebook thing that we did last week? That was awesome, right? I loved it. I don't know if you guys followed it, but I was creeping on Facebook this week. I was creeping all of you guys. And I was going to all your walls, and I was looking. I remember as I'm sitting, see, I have a vantage point that you guys don't have. I can remember everybody who was here, right? I can remember if you're sleeping. It's like Santa. I know when you're naughty or nice. I know. I can see you, right? I see you. So I go on Facebook, and I'm watching. I went to your wall. I went to your wall. I saw your wall. I don't know if I went to your wall. I don't know. I'm not saying. I went to a lot of your walls, and I saw what you wrote. I saw that you did it. You saw what it said, and you typed it, and you sent it out there. And you know what's really cool? Is that all of these people that you guys know, that don't even go to this church, I didn't know if they're Christians or whatever. I didn't read everyone's comment. But there was tons of likes. And there was tons of comments. People from all over the country, because that's Facebook now, right? It's not just people here in Tavares or Leesburg. I got people up in Massachusetts and all that I'm friends with. Friends, whatever. But, I know them, right? And I was watching, and God used that thing. We were faithful. We did what it said. We're proud. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I am, fill in your name, I'm a Christian. the Bible's true, I'm not ashamed, all that stuff. And people were really jumping on board. It kind of went a little viral. It was really cool. It was really cool. But here's the thing, when you do that, some people probably saw that and went, this chick is nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's her problem? Leave it alone, man. Why don't impose on me? I got my own thing. You got your thing, I got my thing, we're good. Leave it alone. A lot of people shun you. But what Peter's trying to tell us here in this first chapter is that, people are going to he calls it trials, testing of the faith. You know what I mean? Like you stand up and you're a Christian and people shun you a little bit. But then here's the thing. Kind of going over what we went over last week, but he says, you know what? Even though that they shun you, like here and now might be a little tough. They might disapprove of what you're doing. But he also goes on. He says, now, but because of Jesus, he says in verse 1, chapter 1, over here in like verse 3, jumping into verse 4, he says, now we live with great expectation. We have a priceless inheritance that's kept in heaven for you, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change or decay. So he says that there's this, it goes on in verse 6, that there's this wonderful joy ahead. So we live, because I know it's kind of tough here. He's like, it's kind of tough here, being a Christian in a community that's not really Christian anymore. Like, it's Christian, but you stand up for Christ and people shun you in a Christian nation, which is kind of wacky. But it's true, right? You guys have had the discussions, right, before? Where you're like standing up for Jesus, but even here in America, where the pledge is one nation under God, you stand up for Jesus and they think you're a wingnut. You know what I'm saying? They don't like it. So we're kind of a stranger in our own land. And so what he's saying here is that even though it's tough now, that in the future, something's coming that's really, really good. So kind of hang in there. You know what I mean? Just kind of hang in there. Now what he says is that there's this priceless inheritance, pure and undefiled, beyond the reach of change or decay. I want a little reading right now. Verse 5, and through your faith, God is protecting you by his power until you receive this salvation, which is ready to be revealed on the last day. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 7, the last half of it. And he says, so when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. Jump over to where we're going to be focusing on today, which is verse 13, 14 and 15, but verse 13 especially. He tells us something else, but at the end of verse 13, he mentions this thing again, this day, this when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world. This is referring to this amazing day that's coming. And he talks about this salvation that's going to be revealed to you on this day. I don't want you to think that until Jesus comes back that like you're not saved. Like if you've said no and bowed your knee to Jesus and he's your Lord, you are saved, absolutely. But what it tells us here is that on this day, when Jesus is revealed, by the way, the Greek word is apocalypsis, and it's an appearing, it's a coming, it's a manifestation of Jesus. So it's not like as Jesus is revealed to you in Scripture, more and more revealed. It's like when he's revealed, when he comes, that some salvation, this greater magnitude, this greater way, this amazing, like the payment hasn't been made in full quite yet. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen on that day, but some greater thing is going to happen. Like, in other words, in today's terms, it's going to get better than this. It's got to get better than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're saved, and I know when I said yes to Jesus, my life changed dramatically. And it got better. Not always perfect, like I still have aches and pains, but it's much better. Because now I got a buddy with me. I got Jesus, my friend, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I'm his own. It's really cool. So my life is better, but this is telling us, and I don't know when it's happening. But there's going to come a day that you're going to feel the full magnitude of all he promises you. You know what I'm saying? And it's glorious. And he tries to explain it as this priceless inheritance that's in heaven, pure and undefiled, when all the things of this world are falling apart. That up there, it's going to be incredible, and it's beyond the reach of change or decay, and it's a wonderful joy that we should have. So, like, something awesome's coming, and I don't know when it is, and I don't understand this whole day thing, like this day. I don't know when the day is. Does anyone know when the day is? I don't know when the day is. Like, you can go online and Google the day, and there'll be a chart from every denomination telling you about the day, when it's going to happen, right? I have no idea when the day is coming. Jesus even talks about that a little bit, doesn't he? Like, I don't even know when it's coming. I'm gone. My dad knows, but I don't even, he didn't even tell me that, so surely you are not going to know. So all these charts make me giggle. I called up my friend, Hal Kitchings, who was he's a doctor of theology, Southern Baptist, like as Southern Baptist as you get. Love the guy, right? He knows his stuff. Now, I don't even know if he knows the day. Maybe he knows the day, but I don't think he knows the day. But I called him up because I don't know the day, and I was getting ready to talk to you about the day, and I didn't know a whole lot about the day. So I was calling him like, can you help me with the day? And he's like, there's a lot of people that are, premillennial, there's some post-millennial. He's like, I'm like pan-millennial. I'm like, what's that? He goes, I'm sure it's going to pan out. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. I'm on page with you. But I'm a little different. I'm like pro-millennial. I'm all for it. But I don't even know when it's going to happen. I have no idea when it's going to happen. And so, like, when we had this past Sunday night, we were kind of talking about some things. We're going back and forth, right? I don't agree. You don't agree, but it don't matter, right? Because here's the thing with the day. Like, most likely we're all going to be dead, right? Or unless it happens real soon, most of us are probably going to be dead anyway. So, like, boom, the day.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. But I know one thing. You got to be ready for the day. Because the day's coming. I don't know when it is, but the question is are you ready for that day when Jesus comes down and the day comes? Like, are you ready for it? Here's the thing I can tell you. We can fight about premillennial, postmillennial, pro-millennial, amillennial, whatever, right? That doesn't even make a difference. There's one thing that we cannot argue about, though, because it's the day, like when, kind of unclear in Scripture. We can kind of piece it together the best we can. There's one thing that's totally clear. He's coming, right? He's coming, right? He's coming, and you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for it. Let me share with you 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. Go there with me, if you will. Keep your finger there in 1 Peter, but go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Actually, we'll start in verse 15. Here's the thing. I don't know when this is going to happen, but something's going to happen. It's called the day, right? Holler when you're there.
Holla.
Holler. Okay.
1 out of 10. Hold on.
Okay, that's plenty of time. Verse 15, look, Paul says this. He was with his buddies, they're writing this letter together, they're hanging out together, doing their Jesus thing. And he says, we tell you this directly from the Lord, so we should probably listen, right? The Lord's talking to us through his people. So he says, hey, put your cell phones away, listen. That's what he said. You guys have that version? Yes, that must be the best. It's the Amplified. Okay, we tell you this directly from the Lord. Listen up, listen up. We are still living when the Lord returns. We'll not meet him ahead of those who have died or fallen asleep. There's our sticky point. It doesn't make a difference because either way, right? Right? Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. They're either gone and up there with you, or they're sleeping. It doesn't make a difference. They're both not here. So I'm not reading to any of those people, am I? So now we're here, right? So either way. That's the beauty of this church. I want you always to remember that we're not only going to agree with stuff, but we love Jesus. I love Jesus. You love Jesus? I love you.
Amen.
All right, it's all good. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout. A commanding shout. A commanding shout. Hello? Anyone? Commanding shout? Anyone like to have a run at that? Hey! Yeah. Good to see. They were way better last night. Maybe probably need to hand out those monster drinks.
I might have to.
Maybe we'll make, hey, let's do it with communion.
All right.
We'll do communion first, right? Before they sing. Okay, so listen. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout,
Hey!
with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First, the Christians who have died or fallen asleep will rise from the graves. Then together with them, we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. That's what people refer to as the rapture. Believe what you want. That's what it says. You do what you want then. Okay? Those who remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet with the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. So encourage each other with these words. So I've just done that. I've encouraged you with these words that one day, I don't know when, but he's coming with that commanding shout and the trumpet call, and he's coming down. He's going to gather us all up and go be with him forever. That day is coming. So, what's that? It's the days of life.
We should sing that.
Yeah, we're almost done. Call me out sweet. There's some parts of that song that are good, like the end. Listen, I love that. Good. Can I finish or? Okay, I'm just curious if I can. I prepared all week, so if you can just let me finish and then you can have at it. So here's the thing. I don't know when it's going to happen. The question is when that day comes and he comes down, are you ready for it? When he comes and he looks you in the eye, and here's the thing, I bet you some of us are not ready. I bet you if the truth be known, if Jesus was to come back today, to do that whole separation thing, some are going with me and some are not, we probably wouldn't want to look him in the eye because he's probably not quite living the way, you know what I mean? Some of us are probably not living. We call ourselves Christians, but unlike last week was a special week because we did something. We were bold. We stood up for Jesus. We don't always do that, do we? We call ourselves Christians, but we kind of, we wander off a little bit. Don't really do what we're supposed to. There's that book. Here's us. Here's that book. Here's us way down there. Like, we're prone to wander. So I'm reading this week, and all of a sudden, which never happens, I was studying, and I thought of that, I'm prone to wander. You guys know, as I look this up, do you guys know a guy named Robert Robinson? Anyone here know Robert Robinson? Huh?
I heard him.
He did. He wrote a hymn. He wrote a hymn back in 1758, and it's called "Come, Thou Fount of Every Blessing." I'm not a hymn guy, and I don't sing hymns, and I don't sing this. I don't know that I've ever even heard this, but what's weird is as I'm studying through the scriptures this week, I thought of prone, it dropped into my head, prone to wander. So I Googled it, because I just knew there was something there, right, that God wanted us to hear. So I offer this to you. Here's the words from this hymn. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor, daily I am constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter, which is like a chain bondage, let thy goodness like a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. And those words, that was it. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. And I read those words, and honestly, is that for everybody? Is that all of us? I mean, in some area of our life, some facet, we're prone to do that. We're prone to wander off. And we know what's right. We know what's wrong. I highly doubt, unless you're a real young whippersnapper, that you really don't know right from wrong. You know what I'm saying? If you've hung out in church or with a Bible or with a Christian at all, even if you haven't, you kind of know what's right and what's wrong. But yet we still do it. We're prone to wander off. And I think that's what Peter's trying to tell us here, is that we're supposed to stand up and be a Christian and do what the Bible says, but we don't. That there's areas of our life where we are prone to wander. Weaknesses. We all have our thing, right? We all have our little, I sin. Tommy boy. A little sail. Right? We all have our thing. I have a thing. I'm prone to fail and wander. I mean, I'm struggling with it this morning as I speak to you with my area. I'm struggling. That's my thing. You got a thing, don't you? Everyone's got a thing that where we're weak, we tend to fail and fall all. It's like, it's nauseating. Like time after time, the same stupid thing over and over. You ever hear someone say, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, let me know. I'll introduce you to my buddy Jesus. I know Jesus. I'm still sick and tired of being sick and tired. But we all have our thing. And so Peter's telling us that, it's going to be tough, it's going to be rough, people are going to shun you, whip you, beat you, starve you, kill you if you stand up to be a real Christian. But something good's come along. But you got to be ready for this salvation day, this day when Jesus is going to come and set it all right, make it all good. But in the meantime, it's a struggle. And he goes on here in verse 13. And I'm not going to read really the New Living Translation. I love that Bible, but this week it's terrible. Okay, it's just not going to work. So what I want to do is I want to read to you some of the different versions of the Bible. And I know I tell you not to use your phone in church. I'm using mine, but I'm reading you some scripture. I want to read 1 Peter 13, but in different versions because New Living ain't coming. But what Peter wants to tell us here is that it's very rough to truly be a Christian in today's culture. And it's difficult, and you're going to have to endure some testing and trials to really stand firm in your faith. Okay? And there's a way to protect yourself so that you can continue to walk as a Christian in this culture. And so he says here, I'll read several versions. Therefore, since it's tough, but something good's coming, and you got to be ready for it, therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. Just for conversation's sake, we'll read the New Living. So think clearly and exercise self-control. Look forward to the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world. Therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Therefore, prepare your minds for action, keep sober in spirit, and fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, I hate to admit this, but King James hits it. Yeah, I don't read the King James here too often, but he hits it. I got to give props to Jimmy here because he hits it. Listen. Wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind. Be sober and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. See, I want to talk to you about this. We are prone to wander. We are prone to turn from God. Like the nation of Israel did? Oh, I love you, God. No, God. Oh, I love you, God. No, God. They just did it over and over again, but that's just a picture of us. Don't we all do that? I do it. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. So I'm right there with you. I'm part of your game. Okay? And what he's saying here is to be able to stand firm and be ready when the day comes when Jesus is coming to get his. You got to be ready for it. And the way we have to do it so that we don't fall is we have to protect the areas of our mind. He says, gird the loins of your mind. Now, when I look that up, how is this going to help me? What am I going to do here? What is it, God? What is it that I need to do to be ready so I can stay solid for you, right? So I look up this girding the loins, and what it says all over the internet is it's preparing for action. So some of the translations say prepare yourself for action, right? You got to prepare yourself for action. What does that mean? Well, back in the day, they didn't wear this, right? They wore like robes, right? They wore robes and they had a little rope around it, the sash, whatever. And so what they would do is that they would be sitting, like if they were sitting somewhere and they were just kind of chilling out at the house or wherever, the robe would be a little more relaxed, a little more open, and you loosen up the belt, you just chill, right? Kind of like when you go to Golden Corral.
Amen.
Yeah. You go to Golden Corral, right? Then you go home. What do? Oh, loosen the belt. Ooh, right? You know what I'm saying, right? You guys do that? I'm not alone, right? Let me just fix that. Hold on a second. Okay. So you do that, right? Or like preparing for action. So they didn't wear sneakers. They wore maybe like that, a flip-flop, right? But in today's culture, like if I'm chilling at the house, before I go out, right, tie up my laces and get ready to go. I'm preparing to go do something. So it was the same thing with what they did. Before they'd get up and do something, they had to tie it up and go. And so that's where they got the preparing for action thing. But I just don't, I'm reading it, I'm like, that's just meaningless to me. So I'm thinking about it, and honestly, what came to me was way different. And I'm just going to offer it to you, and that is this. Girding up the loins of your mind. Think about this. When you're making a building, when you're building something, what are those steel things that are inside the building that holds it? More. Metal what? Girders. Right? The girder. It's taking that thing that would be weak and strengthening it. Right? So think about that. Girding. The loins. You remember Tarzan? You guys remember Tarzan, right? What did he used to wear? Loincloth. Right? That cloth that would cover his loins, the loins of
We got you. We got you.
Yeah, you track it, right?
We're there.
I don't need to give you a visual aid on that one.
Please
Like
don't.
the whole, yeah. Okay, so it was the soft, delicate, private,
Right.
And here's the thing, if you're a man, if you've ever been grazed there, right? You know what I'm saying? It hurts, really. It's tender, it's soft, it's delicate in this area, right? And what he's saying here, no, I know it's funny, but think about it. Strengthen the weak parts of your mind. Strengthen the weak, delicate parts that are prone to fail, that are sensitive, that are soft, that are delicate, that the places where you get hurt. And he's saying, gird, strengthen the areas of your mind that are prone to fail. I mean, we all have them. Like, if some of us have a drinking thing, an addiction thing, a pornography thing, a shopping thing, a lying thing, a greedy thing, a complaining thing. We all have it, right? And so what he's saying here is, and we're going to talk about how do we do that? How do we strengthen the weak and delicate parts of our mind so we can be prepared on the day that he comes to face our Maker? It's not a little thing. Like, one day Jesus is going to look into your eyes. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to try to prepare for that by strengthening those weak areas of our mind. Now, I love this. King James doesn't say be sober in spirit. He doesn't say be sober-minded. To do this, he says, be sober. Now, when I say be sober, what's the first thing that pops into your mind, honestly?
Alcohol.
Yeah, a drink. Yeah. When I say TV, what pops into your head? I was going to say alcohol. Radio, alcohol. Now, then we have a problem. No, we're just kidding. The point is this. I think translators try to figure out what God was saying here, but King James, he's like, just be sober. Let's just take it for what it is, right? When you drink, what happens? We're talking about the weak areas of your mind, right? Protecting them, strengthening them. But when you drink, what happens? Gone, right? You can't make a good choice if you wanted to when you're hammered. You can't. That's what happens. So he's like, be sober. Don't take something in that's going to mess up this mind of yours and make you make a bad choice. When we're drunk, when we do anything, drinking, anything that alters that mind, but you're trying as a Christian to be strong and do the right things. You're opening it up, right? You're reading it. You're like, oh, I should do this. You have a couple of drinks. This is out the window. Truth, right? It's truth. So he says, be sober. Now, I'm talking to Kyle about this the other day at the house, about this being sober thing. He brought up a good point. It's not just alcohol. It's not just, drugs. It's whatever you got a problem with. Boom. If you have a pornography addiction, okay, you don't, that's, I'm talking about XXX stuff, okay? That's the pit of hell. So what you do is you don't look at pictures that are rated R, because rated R leads to X, X leads to triple. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you have a problem in the past with adultery, okay, when some old girlfriend from high school Facebooks you 20 years later, you don't go, oh, you know what, she was hot back then. Let me just kind of see what she looked like, No. Report as spam. Delete. You don't even look at it. Nothing that would go in that could cause you prone to wander, prone to failure, prone to turn from you. So you don't let anything in that's going to alter the weak spot of your mind. Because we all have a weak spot, right? We all have our thing that sends us off in the wrong direction. So we're sober. We don't let something in that's going to mess us up. Okay, now, it also says here, I love this, it says, to gird up the loins of your mind, to be sober and hope to the end. It says, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Hope until the end. See, what you did 10 years ago or 10 days ago at the altar when you gave it to God, that's awesome. That gets it started. You got a relationship with God. That's good. You and Jesus are tight, right? But he's hope to the end. Okay, because you got to stick with it. And that's why he says protect your mind, be sober, because if you start to wander away and you turn from God, you see what he did to the nation of Israel. Okay, what we did 10 years ago, Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? You know what I'm saying? He's like, what about right now? If I come back today, you got to stick with me. The Bible says that just as you came to Christ, so walk in him. Like I came to him one day on my knees, realizing that my way's not right, and I need you as a Savior. So Colossians says, so just as you came to him with that same attitude, so walk in that. Stay right there. The best thing, that song when you guys sing it, Lead Me to the Cross, every day. Every day, lead me to the cross, every day. Absolutely needing you every single day of my life. That's where we need to stay. That's why he says, do all these things to the end. Hope in this amazing Jesus, in this salvation, this wonderful joy that lies ahead, this priceless inheritance. Hope for that to the end. Okay, so these are all great things. Gird the loins of my mind, be sober, hope to the end, that's all great. But how does that all flesh out? Okay, it sounds good, but how do I do that? This is telling us that this is where we should be. This is what we should do. But how? If you don't know how, it's just all a bunch of religion, right? So here's the thing. These are the three declarations that you have to make. This is where I'm looking, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going. Okay, those are the three things you've got to say. This is where I'm looking, this is what I'm doing, and this is where I'm going. And when it comes to the going, I hope that you're going where Jesus went. That you're going to be where Jesus is. See, that's the most important thing, because otherwise none of this stuff makes any sense. So I hope that you've made a decision to be a Christian and accept the gift of Jesus Christ into your life so that you can go to heaven. Okay, that's the first thing. And I don't know if everybody's done it. Just because you come here every week doesn't mean you've really done it. So make sure you get that thing done. And if you don't know how, let me know and I'll help you with that. Okay, but here's the thing. Why are we doing these things? Why would we have to stay focused? Why do we have to be sober? Why do we have to protect the mind? Why do we need to stand up for Christ? Why? Do you guys remember Romans 8:29? I've said it over and over and over again during this message series. Do you know what it is? Go there. Go to Romans 8:29. I don't want you to hear it out of my mouth. I want you to hear it out of God's mouth, right to you. And you see what it says. Okay, Romans 8:29, what is it? Someone want to read it out for me?
God knew his people, being chosen, become like his son, so that his son would be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters.
Right. He knew you. He knows his people. He made you and he wants you to become what? Like his son. Right? If you're a parent, you have a goal on the wall for your children, don't you? There's a certain way you want them to be. This is the way I want my son or daughter to grow up. I want them to be like this, right? And I'm learning more and more all the time, it's really been hitting lately. That, and I don't take this the wrong way, please, but it's not about grades. It's not about how your room is clean. It's about you being Christ-like. You could be a plumber or you could be the president. Just be like Jesus. That's all that really matters. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggie. And here's the thing, I love my wife, right? She's not in here, she's back to doing her thing. There's a family here in this church. You guys know Pete and Jessica Cernicus, the bald roofing guy? You guys, some of you know him, okay? They have a son, Kyler. So Peter he's talking to me on the phone the other day, and it's made me love my wife even more. Talking to me the other day on the phone, and they're getting ready to switch schools. He goes to a private Christian school, and they're not thrilled with the school. He's not performing too well academically. So they're going to switch it up, try to get him in a better place. But he said this is the key. He goes, he's struggling with this. But man, that boy knows his Bible. See, my wife got him. And she'll tell every parent, I don't care if they can read, I don't care if they can write, they're going to know about Jesus when they leave this classroom. She is so excited to share Bible every day. That's her thing. You guys know Big John, tattoo Big John, right? He's got his son Slade. You guys know Slade? Slade, right? One of Meredith's favorites over the years because the naughtier they are, the more she loves them. And he always says, he used to come to her classroom to pick him up. Man, he's just struggling with everything. But man, he knows about that Bible. You know? It's like, yes, that's all that matters. That's the most important thing, is that we become Christ-like in character. To be like, that's the target on the wall. So like you have a goal for your children, I have a goal for my children, you have a goal, you have a goal, you have a goal, you have a goal, you're going to have a goal, we have a goal, right? But if you could go up to heaven, to God's palace in heaven, and look on his wall, the goal he has up on his wall for us, it's a picture of his kid Jesus. That's the goal. And he wants us to be like him, right? So if that's the target, that's the goal, he wants us to be like him, then this whole thing about, well, where do we look, is this. Where do we look to become like Jesus? Because when you're driving down the road, right, here's the example. You're driving down the road, right, you see a wreck, and he's over here to your left. You're looking, where's your wheel going? Don't you tend to go there? Don't you tend to go where you're looking? So if his goal is for us to be like Jesus, Hebrews 12, go there. Let's talk about his life. He says, let us 12:1, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. Isn't that the weak spot in your mind? Isn't that just another way of saying that? All of us have a sin that easily trips us up, the weak part, where we're prone to wander, right? Our weakness. He says, strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance, that's hoping to the end. The race God has set before us, and how do we do it? We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. Let me read you a couple different versions of that. Get a better idea. Hebrews 12:2. It says this, many different versions. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. Looking to Jesus. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. Looking unto Jesus. Keeping our eyes on Jesus, fixing our attention on Jesus, keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus. Let us gaze at Yeshua, little Hebrew there for you. We must focus on Jesus, looking unto Jesus, looking to Jesus, looking unto Jesus. You guys getting? Looking steadfastly unto Jesus. So, like if God's goal is for us to be like his son Jesus, then what do we do? How do we get there? Look at Jesus. Look at what Jesus is doing. Look at who Jesus is. Look at the example he sets. Look at the word that tells us, well, do this, don't do that. Look at what I did. You look at Jesus. So we know, like, what we're looking at, that's where we tend to go, right? And if his goal for us is to be like him, keep looking at him. we're talking about guarding our mind, right? Guarding the weak spots. So when we got these weak spots, then how do we gird them up? How do we strengthen them up so we're not prone to wander? Keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, not just Sunday morning. Keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, like all the time, every day. Yeah, there we go, Pat. Every single day. And here's the thing. The eyes, you've heard this expression, the eyes are the window to the soul, right? So like you can look at someone and know what they're all about. But at the same time, those windows are that's what's letting things in. So you can't let anything into your hard drive. That's not good because the computer malfunctions, right? And that we have weak spots. This is our hard drive here. We have weak spots that we're prone to wander, right? So when that picture comes, that email comes from the old girlfriend, you can't let that in. You can't let that in because that makes you wander. Do you know what I'm saying? The psalmist says in Psalm 101, verse 3, he says, I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. I will set no wicked thing before my eyes, lest I would wander. What Kyle and Tripp both said, I will put nothing in here that's going to make me wander. You know what's going to make you wander. You're all aware of it. This is nothing new. We all have a weak spot, and we have to be careful what we let in, lest we wander, lest we turn from God, start doing the things we used to do. Now, our motto here at our church is open it, read it, do it, right? Pretty simple. But this right here, this is the open and read it part. Jesus isn't walking around right here, right now in the flesh, is he? You guys got gypped. You got me instead of him.
Amen.
Right? Yeah. But here's the thing. It's the open it and read it part. We're fixing our eyes on Jesus. So here's what we do. Every day, Pat says, we open up the Bible and we read about Jesus. We read what he did. We read what he teaches us. And that's helping us go to be more like him. We do this by fixing our eyes on Jesus. God's told us how he gets it done. Fix our eyes on Jesus. Okay?
Always.
That's the open it and read it. But what's the do it part? Think about the do it part. What am I doing? See, the Bible tells us in James 1:22 to not just hear it. You could read it all day. I could read this book every day. I could become a monk. Go up on the mountain in a little cave and sit there and read this book all day long. The problem with it is it says go feed people and help them. Well, if I'm a monk up there in the mountain, it's not doing me any good to read it, is it? Unless I'm what? Doing it. And that's why he says don't just be hearers of the word, be doers. You got to hear it, and then you got to do it, okay? You got to do it. And so one of my favorite verses in all of Scripture tells us what we're supposed to do. We hear it, we open it up, we read it, we hear the voice of God. Jesus is talking to us. All Scripture is inspired by his Spirit. He's telling us what we should and shouldn't do. This is who I am. This is what you are. This is what I've created you to be. Do this, don't do that. He's got the roadmap to success. It's all right there. We hear it, and then Isaiah 50, verse 7 ought to kick in. It says, therefore I have set my face like stone, determined to do his will, for I will not be put to shame. I open the book, I fix my eyes on Jesus. He says, do this, don't do that. And I make a decision, like stone. Boom! This is where I'm going, determined to do his will. It's a determination of our will. What our choices are. See, that's where most of us fail. Most often, at least I know in this church, most of you crack your Bibles. I know that, and I'm thrilled about that. That's step one. That's awesome. I go to a lot of churches, there's no people with any Bibles anywhere in sight. But when I say open to 1 Peter, you guys are there, you know. I love it. Her Bible's filled with writing. All that stuff in there, you know what all that stuff means? I read it. I'm in there. Right? That's good. You guys know. But here's where most of us fail. Most of us are prone to wander where we know what's right, but we don't do it. We know what it says, but we choose not to do it. And see, what the Bible says here is you got to look at Jesus, and you got to do what it says. Set my face like stone, determined to do his will. Blinders. Nothing's getting in except the good stuff. The eyes are the window to the soul. I will only look unto you. You ever see the horses with the blinders during the race? Why? not to the left or the right. Target, finish line. That's what we need. Maybe out of body also,
Amen.
right? And me.
Extra load.
Yeah, and I need them too. Right? But these are the choices that we make. Well, I have 2 doors in my home that lead out to the front. One leads to the garage, one leads out to the front yard. The one on the right, I have 2 little post-it notes on there. They've been up there for years. You can almost not even read them anymore. On this one, it says, for him. And I don't always live for him, but every day I go out that way, it's a fresh reminder to me that every single thing that I do should be for his glory. That the reason I exist, it says it in the Bible, that I was created for him, by him, and for him. Right? So everything that I do should be to bring glory to God. I fail in it miserably often, but it's a reminder every day, so hopefully I'm getting better. I'm getting better. But on the front of my house, it doesn't just say for him. The quote is from Psalm 50, verse 23. It says, keep to my path, and I will reveal the salvation of God. It's the same thing as set my face like stone, determined to do his will. For I will not be put to shame. Same thing. Keep my eyes on the path, and he'll reveal the salvation of God. Like, there's parts of me that wander. I am weak. I am flawed. And when I think about other stuff and I let other things in, I'm prone to wander. And I'm not alone in the room. I know it. We're all that way. I have areas of my life that are so weak. There's areas in my mind that so desperately need to be girded and strengthened, because it's in those areas that I wander off from God and I fail Him. And I experienced one of those this week that was just awesome and awful at the same time, because I realized how pathetic I am. I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor of a church, and I am wretched person. And I need God to help me with these things. This week, I did something, I just be very transparent with you. And I hope that in my transparency that you'll see your own flaws and let God work. Because that's the verse, right? Let God work. Let God change you. Right? So, a couple weeks ago, someone in our church saw a couple walking down the road. And, you know, the person in the church is a female. And she picked up this couple, which, you know, I don't know that I recommend that to every lady, because it could be dangerous, but she felt led to do that. And that's awesome. So she picks them up, and this couple is in great need. So, we were contacted about helping them. So we helped them with their rent, and, you know, we threw some money at the problem. That's what Christians, we're great at that, right? Throw some money at the problem. But then the husband was in the hospital, veteran, water on the brain, swelling, has to go in for a spinal tap, bad scene, you know what I'm saying? Wife wants to be with him. Let me just be honest with you. The wife and the husband, rough. Rotted teeth, he's got no teeth, she's got one, you know, black gums, smelly. Just hear me out, okay? I'm admitting what a lot of you probably feel sometimes, but might not admit it. Right? This is my problem. This is the weakness in my mind where I'm prone to wander. They needed a ride. She needed a ride back and forth from the hospital. I couldn't give it to the lady. She hung up on me. It was like on my face. You know, I was angry. You know, we paid your rent. Kind of like you owe me something. Just be honest, right? Luckily for her, the lady in the church that had picked them up was kind enough to go take them back and forth to the hospital. Well, then I got a call again saying, well, you know what, VA is setting us up an apartment. We need to leave here, but it's going to be cheaper, and it's in St. Cloud. Can you give us a ride? I mean, I'm supposed to be a Christian. I'm a pastor. I'm supposed to represent Christ well for you so you can, you know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't want to. Being honest, right? I got a phone call the next day saying, hey, things changed. It's not St. Cloud anymore. They got an apartment in Leesburg. Like, praise God. You know, Yeah, you're good. I'm back on track for being a good Christian because I could take him to Leesburg. But then the phone call came the next day. That apartment's not ready. We need to go to St. Cloud. Can you help us? Just being honest with you. I'm supposed to be a Christian. I'm supposed to be a pastor. And when we hung up, I was looking for every reason not to go. $3.50 a gallon. My time, my time, so important. You hung up on me. You brought this stuff on yourself. You brought a teeth person. Scum. I mean, I'm just being honest with you guys. This is what's going through my mind. But I went. So I'm in the car with them on the way to St. Cloud. Anyone know where St. Cloud is? It's not next door, is it? Not next door at all. So I'm driving down there. Pretty quiet. I wasn't really talking much with them. And I'm sitting there in the car, light conversation. The kind that you have when you don't care about a person. That was me. And all of a sudden, God just freaking hammers me. Just hammers me. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, dude? And I just said to him, I was like, thank you guys. No, thank you. Don't thank me. But I gave you a ride. Like, I'm not carrying you on my back. It's my car. He said, no, thank you. Because honestly, and I told him openly what I just told you. About why I didn't really listen. They're in my car. They own nothing except what's in my car. When I picked them up, they sold their mattress for $20 and then started an argument in the community because their bed was filled with bed bugs. Well, now their bedding is in my car. So I'm just grumpy. I'm just not miserable. And then just got hammered. I'm like, guys, thank you. What are you talking about? I said, you have done more for me than you can ever imagine. And I asked them for their forgiveness. I asked them for their forgiveness because that's the weak area of my mind. I'm selfish, self-centered, and that's my problem. My problem is that I don't know how to love people the way God does. And so God used those rotten teeth, smelling bedbug people to make me realize that I am not loving and I need to do better. I need Him to strengthen my mind there. So I'd ask them for forgiveness. You know what's amazing? Like the last 20 minutes of the ride, we were like buddies, man. It was awesome. I started talking about my hometown. They were telling me about their hometown. We exchanged email addresses. We're going to stay in touch. All of a sudden, it was like, they're a real person. They're of value. God loves them. You know what I mean? It's like, I needed that car ride. I needed that hour and a half out there so I could wake up. And just to add icing on the cake, God is so amazing. As I left them at their transitional home in St. Cloud, as I hugged her, a bunch of her hair went into my mouth. That was gross, unwashed. I was like, okay, I got you, Lord. Thank you. You know what I mean? It was just awesome. Awesome. But we all have areas like that. And so God showed me my weakness, the area of my mind that I'm prone to wander. And I could sit up here and I could read this book to you all day long. And you guys might think I'm a great guy. Well, I'm not. I'm not a great guy. None of us are a great guy. No one's wearing a white cowboy hat here. Okay? I'm not wearing one for sure. And I needed to have some help. Okay, so I have to keep my eyes fixed on Him. Determined to do His will. Now here's the last thing. What am I thinking about? So I've opened up my Bible, I've fixed my eyes on Jesus, and I've determined to do His will. What am I thinking about while I'm doing this? While I'm living for Jesus, and I'm being like Him, what am I thinking about? And I would venture to say that most of us don't think the right way. We're working. Day to day, we go about our business, whistling while you work. And we're just like thinking about other stuff. I'm guilty of this too. I start thinking about the chairs. I'm doing it's church, God place, right? So I'm thinking about the chairs. I'm thinking about see this little piece of thing on the floor here. That's been driving me crazy. It has. I've looked at this thing that's my problems. I've looked at this as much as I've looked at you. It drives me crazy, right? So I get busy thinking about something that doesn't even matter. Someone prayed this morning about that. We're in the van. Yeah, I think it was you. Thinking about, we gotta get right, thinking about the right things. So what are we supposed to be thinking about? While we're doing those work for God, what are we supposed to be thinking about? Let me ask you a question. In 1 Peter, he's talking about this priceless inheritance. It's up there in heaven, beyond change or decay. It's supposed to be incredible. This, it's going to be tough now, but there's this wonderful joy ahead, right? So this awesome thing is coming. We all determined that at the beginning of the message, that we're saved, but there's this greater magnitude of salvation, like this awesome thing that's coming when Jesus comes to gather us up, and it's going to be awesome beyond words. Poor old John in Revelation, he's trying to describe it. Bad. Couldn't possibly describe it. It's going to be beyond anything we can imagine, right? It's incredible. And so he's saying we should be thinking about this kind of stuff. We should be thinking about this kind of stuff. Do you ever talk to someone who's getting ready to go on a vacation? The average Joe has a work week, 40 hours, 50 hours. They get 2 weeks vacation, right? So they plan a vacation. They're going to the islands, they're going to Disney, they're going to this, they're going to that, they're doing whatever, right? So they're leaving on Saturday, and you talk to them on Tuesday, right? And you're like, hey, Shaniqua, how are you doing today? And you're like, in another world, right? Why? Because she's like checked out already. You know what I'm saying? She's already got toes in the sand in Bermuda, and she's at work, she's there, but she's not there. You know what I'm talking about? You've been there, right? You start there, that guy's like, he's physically there, but he is emotionally and mentally gone in another place. He's already in the islands. You know what I'm talking about? And that's what he's saying here. We got this amazing vacation on the way, right? Where you're going to be up there. He says, I'm going to prepare a place. It's going to be incredible, and I'm coming back to get you, to take you there, right? But it's not toes in the sand, it's toes on golden roads. We should be thinking about this thing. It's incredible. And so the Bible tells us, go to Colossians 3:1. My favorite book of the Bible. Colossians 3:1. Tell me when you're there. We'll start reading. I can't wait. Since you have been raised to new life with Christ. Anyone been raised to new life with Christ? Who's saved here? Anyone been baptized in this joint? Yeah, right? So we're new people, right? Very cold. So you are well aware of the fact that you died with Christ and rose again, right? New person, right? It says here, since you've been raised to new life with Christ, so if you're a Christian, set your sights on the realities of heaven where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. Think about the things of heaven, not the things of this earth. And isn't that what we do? Prone to wander, prone to fail, right? That's where we're prone to fail and wander. We're not thinking about, dude, seriously, we're going to go to heaven where there's no bills, no pain, no suffering, no exes that are driving you crazy, no bills, no potholes, no traffic jams, no nothing bad. It's going to be incredible. Even when you go on vacation to a great place, problems, right? Not here. It's going to be awesome beyond belief. And he's saying, we're thinking about, the gators. We're thinking about the chairs. I'm thinking about this stupid piece of lint on the floor. And I'm going to die and go to heaven. Thank you. All this to say, can someone pick up that stupid thing? No, but you know what I mean? Like, he says, think about the realities of heaven. And we're all caught up in the stupid minutia of life. And he's like, yo, you're going to die someday, and then you're going to be with me hanging out in heaven where it's perfect. All your dreams are coming true.
Amen.
Right here. And we should be thinking about those things instead of thinking about the stuff on earth. He goes on verse 3, for you died to this life. So what are you thinking about it for? Silly thing. And your real life is hidden with Christ in God. And with Christ, who is your life. Well,
Amen.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. Listen, here it is again this day. He says, when Christ, who is your life, is revealed to the whole world, that day is coming. And when that day is coming, he says, you will share in all his glory. Like he is God and we revere him, and he's like the creator, and awesome, right? You get to share in all that. People are going to be doing the same thing. You know what? It's amazing. It says here back in 1 Peter about this salvation, at the end of verse 12, it says the angels are eagerly watching these things come down. Like they're watching this stuff. And we all have like angel statues and hanging on our rearview mirror and pictures. We all think angels are awesome, you know, powerful. In the Bible, they were like big with wings and and they're like, don't be afraid, you know, because they're incredible. And we look at them like, wow, they're awesome. This Bible says that the angels are looking at us and going, hey, you guys think we got it good? Your thing's way better. They're watching us. So you go to Angelville, they got little pictures of us up there. They think they're looking. I bet you if you go to check out an angel's house, they got little posters and and little statues of us.
That's a big poster.
And we got it better than them. They're hanging out with God, and we're going to have even better. They're watching. It says they're eagerly watching these things happen. Like they're going, that's how good our thing is. And we sit here and we focus on the stupid things of life that mean nothing. When meanwhile the angels that we hold in high regard, they're watching our thing going, wow, look what they got. They're a little jealous. Our thing's the best. So we're supposed to be fixing our eyes on Jesus. That's how we live. We become like Jesus' goal by fixing our eyes on Him, setting our face like stone, determined to do His will. Like I open it, I read it, and then I do it. And while I'm doing it, while I'm whistling while I work, I'm thinking about this whole thing I'm going to get. So that stimulates us to stick with it, and it girds our mind, our weak spots. And so we're supposed to live this way. Look back in the text in verse 14. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 14. He says, so you must live as God's obedient children. Like you've heard this now. You've heard that the obedient child of God is supposed to fix their eyes on Jesus. They're supposed to be determined to do its will. Like you open the Bible, you see what it says, and then determine in your heart, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open it, read it, and I'm going to do it. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking about this listen, when you think about this amazing thing you're going to get, it's going to help you stick with it so you're not thrown to wander. Because you don't want to lose the prize. I want the prize. I want to be ready when He comes back. You know what I'm saying? So it says here, you're meant to live as God's obedient children. Don't slip back into your old ways of living to satisfy your own desires. You didn't know any better back then. What's the flip side to not knowing any better back then? Oh, you know now. Because your friend just read it to you. So now you're not off the hook anymore. Like it says, do these things, be obedient. You didn't know back then, now you do, right? Now you do. So you have to do it. You have to do it. It says, now you must be holy in everything you do. Just as God who chose you is holy. That's how you gird up the mind. That's how you gird up the loins, the weak spots in your mind where you're prone to wander. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how you do it. You fix your eyes on Jesus. Open it, read it, do it. Boom. That's it. That's how you're successful. And look, you hope to the end. You keep doing, you practice this stuff all the time. Make this the practice of your life. So when He comes on that day, we can argue about the day, but we know one thing about the day. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. You gotta be ready for it. That's what this is all about. Challenging life, but be ready when that day comes. And I don't know, it could come before my sentence ends.
Amen.
Right? It could happen now. Or next, baseball. Yeah, good enough. All right, let's pray for me.
Which right now?
Okay, we're done. Yeah, we just missed it. Lord, I'm thankful for this group of people. I'm thankful, Lord, that this group of people and your word have come together today. And I'm thankful, Lord, that you are very open, that you don't leave anything confusing. This is a very clear message from your scripture. It's not confusing, Lord. It's very clear. Your desire is that we would become like your Son in every way. That we would share in His glory. That we would receive your praise on that day. We don't know when that day is, but we know that it's coming. And Lord, we just want to be ready for it. So Lord, I pray that right now, just like you did for me this week, you don't love me any more than you love any other person here. I pray that now, in a moment of clarity, that your Spirit would point out parts of our heart. Search our heart, search our mind, and know our anxious thoughts. Know where we fail you. Point them out to us. Give all of us now that moment, like I had in the car, when you hammered me. Reveal to us where we are prone to wander. Identify the weak places in our mind where we're prone to wander. And then, Lord, by your Spirit, strengthen us. Gird the loins of our mind. Give us strength to say no, to be sober, to keep our mind clear so we can determine to do your will and obey you. I love the end of that verse which says, "For I know I will not be put to shame." That's Isaiah's way of telling us through God's Spirit is that if you choose his way, it will come out on top. All things work together for the good to those who love the Lord and are called to his purpose. That is what the Bible says. Loved ones, believe it. Believe it. I did something I didn't want to do, and God worked in me and changed me and brought blessing into my life. I now have 2 friends. The Bible says to let God transform you by changing the way you let him. Take a few moments, quietly, just you and God. Let him identify the weak areas in your mind. And ask him to strengthen you, help you to do those 3 things. Fix your eyes on Jesus. Be determined to do his will. Set your thoughts on things of heaven, the realities of heaven. Blessings of Christian faith is repentance. It's that time when he points something out, when you know that you've been wrong, points it out to you. The promise of the Scripture is that if you confess that sin to him, he's faithful and just to forgive you and cleanse you of all the garbage that goes along with it. So take a moment. If he's pointed out an area of your life where you wander, you're prone to fail him and turn from him. Repent of that thing. Just tell him you're sorry. Ask him to give you strength not to do it. Joy and spirit welling up inside of you. It's giving you strength to do better. Stand with me. We're going to sing one last song. Lord, we thank you for letting us gather here this morning. I thank you for forgiving me of my sin. I thank you for the absolute privilege that it is to be able to share your word with these precious people. Help me never to forget. It's my biggest problem. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege. Thank you, Lord, on behalf of all of us here. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of coming into your house, hearing your music as you sing over us. So, Lord, once again, before we leave, just sing over us. Help us experience your great love for us.
blessings on this church, everyone who calls this name. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
tons of stuff that we have planned in the near future. Please check out that computer screen before you leave. Please, 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 please. Thank you.
Yeah.